Okay, so we have a model builder here, and we want to export this to a Python script. Why do we want to do that? Well, for a number of reasons. Python makes things more flexible. You can now integrate it with other Python libraries that deal with like Excel or PDFs or some sort pandas, that sort of thing. If you want to utilize Python functionality or functionality of some other software that's not fully integrated with Model Builder. Also, maybe you just want to use Model Builder as a rough outline type of tool, and then export it to Python so you can actually get the Python to work, and then you can run it from the command line, which means you can now schedule it for regular updates. Although I hear that they're actually doing that in Arc Pro, so we'll see. Maybe that will actually solve that problem. But at any rate, we're gonna do this because we're gonna talk about how the Python looks. So it's very simple here. Model, export to Python script, and let's make sure we're putting it in. Let's see, Model Builder, Final Project. Okay, I'm just going to call this export select one. Okay, so now we have a Python script, and let's see what we can do with it. I'm going to go ahead and close the model. Well, let me make sure I save the model first. And then we're going to go ahead and close it. Sure, whatever. I told you that. All right, and now because we've already done this, I want to go in and I can either just go ahead and delete the Longmont zoning, or I can copy it over from my backup database. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this field, just so because that's all we've done so far. Okay, and then I'm going to want to close our catalog just to make sure there are no locks still standing open. And let's see here. See if we can find our file here. We have export select P1. I'm going to edit it with the PyCharm Community Edition. You could also create a project and load it in there in PyCharm. Let's wait for that to come up. And here it is. And so if you look at the code here, this is what has been generated from Model Builder. So it's put in some comments about the header, and if you want to go ahead and fill in your description and things like that, you certainly can. Then we're going to import the ArcPy module. This is something you're familiar with so far. And then we're going to create some variables, and essentially these are going to equate to every one of those ellipses that you see. And sometimes they're kind of dumb because you already know these things, and so sometimes they'll have the same variable in there more than once. That's a thing that's nice to clean up, but because the model can't anticipate all the things you're going to want to do, it does it in the most straightforward way possible. It's given me an absolute path here. Again, you might want to change that when you create your model builder, so that you don't have to put the full path name in all the time. It's created some zoning layers, and then so here's a variable called zoning layer, and it's set to this value. And then you'll notice that here's another layer that is set to this. Here's a variable that's set to this variable, and here's a variable that's set to this variable, and here's a variable that's set to that variable. Well, basically it's the same value all the way down. So you could actually get rid of all of these, but then you'd have to go through down here and change, this value to equal to that, change this value equal to that, etc. So it's a little, I would say, not streamlined. It's a little bulky. Because we did set our geoprocessing environment, it has gone ahead and put that code in there. It would make things a little easier to read later. So and then it starts with the commands. First thing, make feature layer. Remember, that's the first thing we did. And it does it the formal way that you do this in ArcGIS. So it tells me, here's my input feature class. Here's the layer that I want you to give it the name of. And then there are a couple of spaces here, basically placeholders for optional arguments that we're not using. And then it has this long thing, which is a field map. And I suggest that you don't mess with this at this point, but it's one of those deals where if you wanted to, you could come in and you could rename fields on the fly. If you change visible to hidden, it would remove those fields from the layer itself. In this case, it doesn't make much difference. You can just leave it as is. I think you can actually completely delete it. But, let's not mess with it right now. Then it will come in and it'll add a field, basically using this layer as the input, create a new field called zoning rank, make it short, and then these are all the other arguments for that particular tool. Now, you can go look up this tool in the help and just see what those are. Then we're going to do a select layers by management. Remember, we just did this where we're going to say Longmont, our input is basically the output from this. In this case, not much of a difference. New selection. And then this is the code in the selection statement. Now, this sometimes gets tricky, and there have been times when I've had to go through and use the escape character in front of these single quotes. This can be a source of your problem, and it depends on how complex this gets, and things like does business light industrial. If it had the other slash, this thing might completely look completely differently. Anyway, and let's see, what is this? What is PyCharm's telling me? Oh, so the line is too long. Okay, well, we can have PyCharm reformat that if you want, but let's just see if it works straight out of the box. Calculate field, and then since we've already made all the selection, this part is easy. Basically, you just say set zoning rank equal to 5, right? Okay, so let's run it, see what happens. And what we're hoping is that when we're done, the Longmont zoning feature class in this geodatabase has a field called zoning rank, and that some of the records have been calculated equal to 5. That's what we're hoping for. And the tension is mounting. And it is finished with an exit code of 0, which means it did not fail on any of these. Now, one thing we might want to come back and do, and we'll look at this later, is you notice that it took a long time. We don't know where it was, what it was doing. We could put some print statements in here, say we're doing this, and put them in a try except or something like that, so that if it fails, we actually have some messages that we can look at. Anyway, but before we do that, let's go back and just verify that it actually did what it says that it did. I'm going to fire up our catalog again. Fire up our catalog. Oh, sorry, I just said that. And we will open our geodatabase. Here's Longmont zoning. Remember, we deleted that zoning rank field a few seconds ago, and here it is back again. And if we do a sort descending, it does look like some of them are 5s, and that we have only 5s. And so hopefully we have exactly the same answer that we got when we ran it from Model Builder. Okay. All right. Well, that's established that, so we'll move on in the next step, in the next video.